Hello, Ron. You can try to hide, but Kendall is not feeling well, so she's not with us today. But we have Kai and Brian. So I'll apologize in advance. When I go off the rails, Kendall was the best at keeping me in line. It is a full-time job. All right, so Kai or Brian, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Brian Yonta. David Wegman.
Here.
Derek Bays.
Here.
Doris Cooksey. Debbie Reed.
Here.
Neffy Garza. Kara Tackett. Jeff Carroll. John Paul Beasley. Suzanne. Jose Reyes. David Mock.
Here.
Thank you, David. Donovan. Here. Thank you, Donovan.
I was gonna ask, are we sure it's working?
Marty Kelly. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. James Blount, Texas Division of Emergency Management. Jamie McCool, Department of Agriculture. Jared Bowen, State and Soil Water Conservation Board. Chris Robles, General Land Office. Anita Machiavello or Katie Coslin.
And Katie Coslin is here stepping in for Anita.
Thank you so much, Katie. And Susan Roberts, TCEQ. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Brian. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item is the approval of the minutes from the last Regional Flood Planning Group meeting. You should have those in your packet. It was a pretty straightforward meeting with basically setting everything in motion for the RFQ scoring. Are there any comments or concerns about the minutes?
Dave Wegman moved to approve. I second that.
I'll be abstaining because I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 4, communications from TWDB. We have Katie online. So Katie, the floor is yours for any updates or information.
Hi, we don't have very many updates at the moment, other than to please check out the guidance emails that we sent in May about the amendment process, as well as the email we sent out about payment requests. We are working diligently to try to finish up those to close out the contracts by the end of August. And that's really all we have in terms of updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Are there any questions that any group member has for Katie? All right, thank you. Next item is chair report. First, welcome back from summer quote unquote vacation. And the main item to report, which will also deal with item 6, is that Robert Reyna from the city of San Antonio, he resigned from the city, and he also resigned his position on the planning group. So we now have a vacancy. We appreciate Robert's time that he served here and getting us to, through the last throes of the first phase. But that's really my main item, that we do have a vacancy to deal with, which leads us to item number 6, discussion and appropriate action to authorize Sarah as the sponsor to publish solicitation for the existing vacancy. So the vacancy, the position that Robert was filling, is for the municipalities interest group. We have 2 municipalities positions. One's intended for a smaller and one's intended for a larger which typically has been COSA. Robert represented COSA, and so that larger organization. So this item, we're going to request the board take action to authorize Sarah to solicit for the municipality's vacancy with language indicating preference for a larger municipality. Just because COSA has been filling it doesn't mean that it's, guaranteed their position. But we certainly would encourage COSA and any other larger municipalities that you're aware of to express interest. We're asking for that authorization today. We may or may not meet in September. The Region 12 might not be until October. So that will determine when we actually post, giving us time to go through that whole process, and also whether it's COSA or anyone else, time to figure out who their potential nominee would be. So I'll open it up for discussion or any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, what is the extent and nature of the outreach? In other words, where are you going to be publishing, through what channels?
I think we're required to do that through the papers. It has to be a public posting.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but that's just a minimum.
I mean, it'd be through our social
We
media
can do
as
social
well,
media.
but if there's
And
Other-
emails to the group.
and emails to the group that can be pushed out, but if there's somebody in particular or an organization in particular, we're happy to, get that out to them as well.
It also will be on the Region 12 website and sent to all of the Region 12 counties as well, to the county clerks of each county.
Suzanne?
Is there a definition of what we're considering large municipality? A population or anything like
This is where
that?
we need Kendall. I don't know it off the top of my head.
So,
Brian's looking frantically.
I'm
Okay.
looking through the bylaws, and we don't
I
have
don't
a
recall that we
definition.
defined it before. I think we could all almost say we probably only have one large municipality in our
yeah.
region. But we did not define it by size from what I remember.
That sounds like a good idea to do while we're in this process.
Well, I think the hard thing is we'd have to probably come way down in size if we really specify it
right.
to be anything other than San Antonio. And
Well, and that, I guess that's my question is, I understand, well, maybe I need to be clarified because I always get these organizations confused, but we set our own rules for the replacement of vacancies. Is that correct?
correct, we can modify as need be at our own discretion. The original was determined by Texas Water Development Board, but we can modify as such.
Right. So I guess that my question is if it's the intention to have this vacancy go to the city of San Antonio and have the city of San Antonio represented as the largest municipality in the region, would it make sense to say that's what we want versus going through the exercise of solicitations, putting it out there, getting all these other folks to, getting other
I
cities
thought
to
we had to
participate?
do the solicitation no matter what.
We're required
Are
by,
we are, because I thought the vacancies on this was our discretion. No, not in this case.
we're required to publish the vacancy and ask for nominations. Now,
And then they're like a
As you
30-day
described.
timeline. It
Okay, 'cause I thought that was-
specifies how long it
I
has
thought
to be
with this one,
posted.
They gave you flexibility, but that's why I was confused between this organization. I
30.
know Regional required it, but I thought through the flood planning process, they gave more discretion to the actual entities for that replacement. But maybe I may be misunderstanding what that flexibility meant. If there's still a requirement for posting, then we obviously need to do that. But, I just don't want to, my concern is if we already have a preference, we're going through an exercise and, folks may submit their application knowing that we want the city of San Antonio represented on this committee. So I don't know. I just didn't want to be disingenuous with the process that we're going through. That's all I was trying to recognize.
I think the intent was by saying large municipality, even if we didn't define it, it was intent, It's pretty clear, but not specifying. I mean, I guess we could go as far as say, is this has traditionally been filled by representative of the city of San
I don't
Antonio?
even know if that's necessary. It's not like we're going to get inundated with a pile of
we
applicants
haven't.
for this
We're gonna
thing.
get
I
one.
think most of the applicants that we get are going to be a function of direct outreach by members of the group or people that actually follow those pages. And the Region 12 itself doesn't have a huge amount of municipalities. I think Jeff Carroll is got Bernie, and Bernie I think is probably the second biggest municipality anyway. So there's only one other one bigger. So I think it just goes through its process. You publish it, you notify the board members, put it on the Water Development Board's webpage, and then we can individually do outreach.
And the administrative code, the Texas Administrative Code is not helpful in this regard. It just defines municipalities and.
Right. It's
So-
going to be very general in that respect.
I mean, I'm comfortable with the traditionally been filled by the city of San Antonio, but I believe we are required to post. Debbie, I'm sorry, you were.
I was just gonna ask if folks knew where the city was in replacing Robert. It's been advertised?
We have a representative from the city of San Antonio.
Oh,
Come on down.
Okay, here we go. The city of San Antonio has not advertised the position for assistant director. We have an interim assistant director, Jessica Shirley Sines, who's filling in. There is no designated timeline on when that position will be posted. The city is interested in continuing to fill this chair position, and we will be submitting an applicant.
Okay.
Chair, if I
Yeah,
may,
Neffy.
let me remind the group that when I held that position, the position that I held in this committee was not a municipal position. I was the same position I am today, which is flood district. We only had one municipal representation, and that was Jeff.
why we modified.
Without a definition of what a large utility, without what a large city is, then, we're sort of, we're saying, go through the motions and we're going to choose someone from San Antonio. I mean, that's what we're essentially saying. And that's okay. I just want to be straightforward about it. And people know that as they submit, they understand that. Because we do have other cities within the area, within Region 12.
I mean, if we're going to define it somehow, I mean, I would look to some other part of the Texas code. I don't know what that might be. You said administrative code is not helpful.
No.
But I guess my preference would be, in order to keep the process moving, is that we can make that modification at some point. It wasn't on the agenda to mess with the bylaws. But I think the wording, when we say traditionally filled by the city of San Antonio, would convey what has historically happened. But I'm comfortable with adding that and requesting that the group move forward with the okaying of the advertisement. Motion, anybody?
Debbie Reed, motion to approve Sarah going forward with the announcement.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion passes. Item number 7 is discussion and appropriate action to select a technical consultant for cycle 2 of regional flood planning. And I'm going to turn this to Kara, who led that effort from the board perspective.
Thank you, Chair. We had a committee composed of 3 members from the board, Suzanne Scott, David Wegman, and myself, 2 staff members from Sarah, as well as administrative support from Sarah on that process. We had 2 submittals for that position. The committee reviewed individually and then met collectively. We did feel that, we considered the potential for interviews. I think with 2 applicants, we were able to really spend time diving in and found out, and consensus with all of us was that there was a clear front runner for that we were all comfortable with, and that we didn't feel that there was a difference enough in scores and the position that we didn't feel like an interview really would substantially change that process or bring a different outcome. And so we then completed and have our recommendation ready for consideration of the group. And I think we're all available to answer questions, but I think that there was 100% consensus. There was not anyone who a strong disagreement in the committee. So I think we all felt that that was kind of where we were headed. Our recommendation is the HDR team that for consideration of the committee. I think the timeline is, we would recommend selection by the committee and then or by the planning board, and then Sarah begin negotiating that scope and fee with them. It's whereas Derek had mentioned, we may not need a meeting in September. We have to have them under contract by a specific date, which is right around the beginning of October, if I remember. And so that may be what triggers, depending on the applicants coming in and, a recommendation from the city of San Antonio, we may wait and do each of those really right before that. Or we may, if we have those come in, go ahead and make a selection in September. And that's our recommendation.
Thank you, Kara. Are there any comments or questions from the group for Kara or the other members of the selection panel? Okay, Nephew, go ahead. And then
I do have one question. As I thought about this, the process, the first go around, I recall one of the challenges that we had, and I don't know that it's necessarily the consultant's fault, but we had a struggle, and I think overall in the state is doing significant outreach to some of those smaller communities, maybe not trusting the process or not understanding it. When you were looking at the, I guess, 2 teams, was there some discussion about that, about the outreach, about doing outreach to smaller communities and getting their input? Was there any discussion about that?
I should have pulled up the solicitations again. I mean, the submittals again, but I recall in reading HDR's submittal that they had kind of a lessons learned table. And this was one of the items that was in their lessons learned table about getting out and reaching out to the communities, getting out ahead of it a little faster and trying to get more of that input from the communities. So I don't recall the specifics of it, but I do think I identified some specific steps that they wanted to take based on those lessons learned. And I hope I'm accurately recalling that submittal.
I think that's appropriate. And, really with a condensed timeline, I think that's one of their opportunities in a next round, but they did really kind of include several of those items.
That's a good point. That was mentioned quite a bit through the submittal, was that they were on the fast track this last time. So we had to expedite things that now they're going to have a little bit more time to put time and attention into.
Okay, Donovan, you had a question?
I was just curious who the other submittal was, what set them apart, why it was HDR?
The other submittal was a team led by AECOM. It was a large team, a very large team. In fact, I think we had one discussion of a lot of team members to manage in the group. I think really in this first round, from experience, how are you going to beat an HDR half team that knows the information, that's local, that had a lot of experience with local issues? AECOM team has also participated in one of the previous ones, but it was not immediately in our area. And so there were a number of areas that really, I think scoring, we all felt it's hard to top the incumbent with the experience they bring to the table in that short track. So I don't know, Dave, you want to add anything, or
Or Brian?
Katie with the Water Development Board has a comment, and it may be about the timeline.
Katie?
Katie?
Yes, it is about the timeline. I just wanted to remind y'all that you need to send a draft subcontract before you execute your subcontract. So I would keep that in mind in terms of making a deadline for the beginning of October.
Thank you, Katie. The other piece that I want to bring to your attention, this is an action item. You can approve, we would like you to approve this today, whichever direction you provide. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we were still in discussion.
I know. Thank you.
Aaron, did you have anything, from the technical aspect that you wanted to add for this internal Sarah technical team?
I think there's being covered pretty well. I would speak to the strength of the experience as a team that we saw in the HDR half team versus the other team. Just seemed like they had pulled this together, and it wasn't like the team experience wasn't clear in their submittal.
I think, and to elaborate on that, there were many of the team members in the other group who had worked together, but the team had not worked together. And the majority of, because it was a larger team, had not worked together. And we know from what we learned in this last, it is a team effort all in. Really, that work distribution was important. And so that was a factor, to Aaron's point.
Yeah, I was going to say, just suffice it to say that these were all scored independently by the scoring team members. The composite scores bore out that the HDR team was numerically the highest ranked firm, and I would move that we move to select HDR as a technical consultant.
I second that.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kara. Debbie, did you have another comment?
I just wanted to plug in the green infrastructure and to bring to the attention of this committee is that our region didn't rate at all on green infrastructure. There are like 3 or 4 other regions and we were not there. So I'm hoping that we have a really strong component in that.
And they actually did highlight that, with the half part of the team and the group that has worked on this in the past. They did specifically talk about the nature-based infrastructure and trying to accentuate that more this time around. I think again, the timeline did what worked against us in that regard. And I think if we can be able to have more time to look at those strategies and to be able to move forward more projects that could possibly rank better with the nature-based aspect, I think that we'll have more time to do that this time. But they specifically did highlight it where the other team did not. So it just didn't highlight. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't have expertise. They just didn't highlight it as much in their proposal.
I just have one more comment and thank these members of that team because I know what a grueling job that is. So thank you so much for doing, I'm sure, an excellent job.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. We have a motion from Dave and a second from Kara to approve HDR as the selected consultant. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you. We have selected HDR and we will, Sarah will work through the contract process with them and kick that off. I think that's best left to a sidebar discussion. Just kidding, Ron.
We didn't say that improved their points. We just said it was a consideration.
Item number 8. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead,
I
Donovan.
forgot to ask one question. Were there other subs? Who all is involved in the team?
We'd have to pull each of those.
I mean, we made the vote, but Ron, if you can come up, do you know the subs off the top of your head? We've already voted, so this is just clarifying.
We stayed pretty much with the same team we had last time and used the individuals that we had. HDR will be leading, half will be a major in a major sub role. We've also have we kept on our public outreach with Jimenez, but Linda explained to us that she will be retiring soon, and so we wanted to keep her on for that transition and that institutional knowledge and the things that in the community in the relationship she had made. And then we are going to use the Poznecki team to help us with the outreach. So that will be our other sub.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Thank you, sorry about that.
No, you're good. Thanks, Donovan. Next item, public comments. Brian, are there any public comments?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, so our last item is setting a date and time, potential agenda items for the next meeting. So Brian, I'm going to turn this to you to talk through it.
So two things. The nomination or the solicitation for the vacancy needs to be posted for 30 to 45 days. That's the window. So we need some time there. The other piece of this, we need time to negotiate the contract with Ron, with HDR and PAF. So we're suggesting targeting late October for the next meeting, skipping September and going to late October.
And that fits the TWDB schedule.
It does.
Okay, as long as we send in our draft
We
draft
have to send the
contracts ahead of
we
time.
have to send in the draft prior to the final. So
Yeah.
yes, that it fits that.
Okay,
Unless anybody wanted to have any discussion in September, I think the Water Development Board is expected in August to make determinations on the grant applications, those abbreviated grant applications that were sent in. I'm assuming the city of San Antonio sent in some grant applications. I know Bear County sent in 7 or 8 of them. Probably a number of our smaller municipalities and areas did also. That may be a topic of some discussion to see how effective we were with our selection of projects.
And we have,
That would be an excellent thing to do.
no, I agree. I think that's a great topic. Does it impact the date of when we have the meeting at all? Other than they're going to announce in August?
I don't know when they're going to announce, assuming that they announce in August, we're already in August,
Yeah.
it shouldn't have any impact on our ability to set a date in September.
No, September or October. We're just trying to give ourselves time to post the job advertisement and negotiate the contract.
if we meet in
too.
September, there's likely a need to meet in October again.
That's
Understood.
Yeah.
I'm sort of agnostic. I just didn't want to skip 2 months if we didn't need to, but.
Katie has her hand up to
Okay.
speak again, so help us with the timeline. Katie?
I would suggest just meeting in October. Most of the other regions have dialed back their meetings, and I'm not sure that FIF would be ready by August. It was a really big, like there were a lot of applications. It was a big task for them. So I can't guarantee, like there's no guarantee that they would announce at the end of August. So it would be better to wait, and the outcome of whatever happens with FIF, it doesn't change, and you can still talk about it in October. But that's
Okay.
my perspective on it.
Okay. So, Dave, you okay with looking at October? All right. So looking at October, are there any suggested dates, Brian, or for the group for us to consider as we're all staring at our phones quickly? Generally speaking, our Thursday afternoon still, we sort of stuck with that. It seems to have worked fairly well. But I just want to double check.
Could I propose the 24th of October?
Brian, what's our date? Do we know? Or Katie, what's our date in October that we have to have?
Where's Kendall's notes suggest late October, so I think anything in the second half of October is great. And
I can do 24.
I will note TWCA Fall Conference is here in San Antonio on that day.
Oh.
And that's the big day for that conference. That's the full day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would the 17th be an option?
I can't do that.
Okay.
I'm just one person, but
Can you call in, Suzanne?
no.
Not trying to
I'll be in
put you on-
Oklahoma, so
Oh.
looking at Buffalo. I know y'all can come with me. We're going to see the buffalo, tall grass prairie, Oklahoma.
31st, the week after.
And have a
Meet
meeting
on
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 Halloween.
Halloween?
We should, well,
Well,
the personal thing about that is Kendall's anniversary. So she
Oh.
probably doesn't want to have a meeting on that day.
I'd be,
We could.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
I'd be
I
a
think-
little concerned on meeting the 31st, the last day of the month, if Sarah has to turn
Co-
around
the-
and get stuff to our development board in October. That's too close.
TWCA will be over by noon on that Friday, the 25th. And it's honestly tapering down before noon. Hey, I was honest. What, I mean, we could do early Friday afternoon, the 25th, or.
I don't like
um,
doing Fridays if I don't have to.
I'm with
'cause
you.
oftentimes I get weekend plans that pop up. I'm with Debbie on the 22nd.
He's honest.
No,
No, TWCA starts in the,
no, she says court.
court.
Even if I have Commissioner's Court, if we do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm still fine.
So 2 o'clock on the 22nd of October, does that meet with most folks?
Yes.
This room will not be available, but we could host.
We
in
can still do
Salado.
it,
Okay.
and we can talk about why it's not available.
Okay.
All right, we will get, yep, to October 22nd at 2 PM. Potential agenda items, I think, Dave,
Quick- Just a quick question. I just noticed that we didn't have, and I'm assuming it's summer, but do we want to do some Google polling or some kind of doodle polling for dates or,
but I think we got there already.
okay.
But we can certainly do that for the future.
If we don't have a good turnout, maybe that's something we need to look at. There you go. How's that?
Sure.
Okay.
We're good with that. Potential agenda items for the 22nd. I think Dave suggested the first one, which is a review of TWDB's grant, the results of their grant review. Another item, potential items for the board to consider are looking at how our Region 12 flood risk reduction solutions ranked in the draft state flood plan. I think I've heard that from different folks, Nephi in particular. And then also we talked about possibly an update on the BRWM, the Bear Regional Watershed Management Group that Sarah, the city, and the county participate in, and where that stands. Any concerns about that or anything else that people would like to put on the potential list?
Chair, additionally, we would also have information about you would have a contract signed with the consultants by that point,
Correct.
as well as potential municipal position.
New member or backfilling that vacancy, yes, for sure. Sorry, I kind of took both those for granted. I think the authority is for us to, you give us authority to negotiate and execute.
Okay, then let's circle back.
We can circle back and modify that.
Let's just revote to be clear that it's negotiate and execute a contract with.
Can I clarify the Sarah presentation topic?
1 second. Please let us clarify this. All right, thank you, Suzanne. So to clarify, we're just going to revote on the item for HDR. So the action is to select HDR as the Region 12 technical consultant and authorize Sarah to negotiate and execute the contract. So can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And bless you, whoever sneezed. All right, thank you. Aaron, going back to your clarification on the topic.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt that. The Sarah topic, it's listed in the notes update on BRWM, but it's a presentation on our special project that we did for FEMA about 2D modeling with rain on grid and kind of some of the information we can get from it, the direction of where flood risk data is going. It should be a 10-minute presentation, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm
It's-
good. Obviously, I'm good with that.
Okay.
But Any other topics? And if you think of something in between, obviously now and coming up in October, please let us know.
Do we, I guess my question is, obviously, HDR will not be under contract um, until whenever y'all finalize the contract. So I guess I would like to ask if they, because they know they're going to be under contract, if they would be able to do the assessment of the rankings of the, the projects, kind of lessons learned, what did, in other words, we're asking you to do a little bit of work before you're actually under contract. Would you be willing to do that and to help facilitate the conversation about that, and also the grants as they come in, kind of gathering that data and helping us do this analysis that we're asking for?
Absolutely, and I think I need to check on the timeline. We are actually, for the Water Development Board, developing a state flood plan viewer that should show all the information that it should rank everything by region,
I
by
saw that in
everything.
your
So
proposal.
hopefully that'll be ready by
Okay.
then, and that'll go. With that, I think that all gets approved coming up really soon. Want to give a quick plug, Mr. Chair, next Wednesday, the 15th, I think that's Wednesday, August 15th, is the Water Development Board is approving the state flood plans.
Yeah.
So please, I think all of you are invited to attend the meeting. There's a happy hour afterward. I'm sure Kendall has that, but if you need that information, let me know. August 15th, next week. The meeting, I'm not really sure, but I think there's a happy hour offsite, like around 4
Yeah.
somewhere.
It's August 15th, starting, according to the invite I saw, from 4:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. up in Austin. That's the invite I got from
Yeah, that's
from Reen.
the celebration afterwards.
That's the celebration after. That's the only information I got.
Yeah.
It's at the Love Supreme Pizza Bar.
Yeah, that's the happy hour. Those are the important things, the happy
Yes.
hour.
That's right. But yes, we will.
But in addition,
It-
just for it being there, I mean, some sort of analysis of, I mean, I don't know, the viewer, I think is a great idea, and it's all going to be sort of in there, but it's kind of like how the project's ranked, and if there's any lessons learned about things that we, going into the next one,
Absolutely.
that'll take a little bit of analysis of that data, and you're willing to do that as,
Yeah, we've already looked into a lot of the information and know
Okay.
I think we have a lot of idea of what scored well, and we can share all that information with the group.
yeah.
Because that's the biggest thing, right? Is what we learned from all of this is
Yes.
we're in a process to provide the most and highest ranking FMEs and FMPs
That's
to
right.
the board, and now we know the metrics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate that. All right. Are there any other comments, questions, items for the group?
Chair, I did.
Well-
Sorry, go ahead.
Y'all gonna
Just-
fight it out.
Wondering, a quick question, if there's an update from the board on the guidelines they were going to be developing for nature-based solutions in Texas.
I know it's
I believe
underway.
that's an ongoing research project,
Still
and
going on.
I do not know any updates on it since I'm not a part of the research project, but I could ask and have Anita update you.
That would be great. Thank you, Katie. Neffy.
Thank you, Chair. A independent process here, and I'm not sure who needs to brief who, and it might be a situation where we receive briefing from this group and then we brief this group. Some of us happen to sit on a committee by the city of San Antonio put together, particularly for stormwater, and part of the scope of work there is to perhaps evaluate their scoring criteria for their project selections that eventually go to the bond projects for the city. I think it would be beneficial to have a briefing for this committee. I mean, you two also sit on that group, and vice versa. I think there would be some benefit there. At the end of the day, what's going to happen, Chair, is that the city's scoring criteria is going to change. And ultimately, the hope is that projects that get prioritized at the city become perhaps a little more competitive, that encompass more than, various solutions, and that when they do go to the bond, that they are projects that are transformative, that really make a difference. And I think it's going to start with the criteria. And let me remind you that the criteria at the city is different from the BRWM's criteria. So and I say we because both Suzanne and Debbie and I sit on that committee. And we're tasked with doing that, appointed by council members to do that. So I think it would be beneficial, maybe not at the next meeting, but perhaps a little further on until we get something a little bit more substantial. But I think it would be beneficial for this group to hear from them, I say them, but us, on the process and the status and how, and then vice versa.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And so we can certainly, when the timing is right, I think if that group wants to come present here, but then also whenever the timing is right, whether it's before or after, it doesn't matter to me. We can go present officially to them and just say, this is what Region 12 is. You have 3 members. Here's what we've learned from the state process. And so it might be after the October meeting, once, we get our consultant on board and we've heard sort of the digestion of what we've learned from TWDB. But I don't know where that fits into sort of y'all's timeline either.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think that would be real beneficial. One of the shortcomings, or one of the challenges that we saw, is that the number of projects that the city of San Antonio submitted didn't really encompass everything that they had. So I think that's going to be important that their projects are fully included in here so that they become eligible for funding. But that's something we can discuss at a later time. But certainly, I agree with the timeline.
Yeah, just to be clear, yeah, I just do want to be intentional that we did every bit of outreach possible to the city, and the city chose not to submit certain projects for whatever reason, but it was not for lack of effort on our part. All right, any other comments? All right, Debbie.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Look at that, thank you. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.